Happy snow day, statisticians. Hey, I'm sorry we aren't going to be with each other on this Monday, day one. We'll see how many of them there are. But we're moving forward with our statistics class, and the news is good over here in data display, sampling, and experimentation. This is where the fun begins. This is where you're actually going to be doing statistics instead of just charting it and exploring mean, median, and mode and making things on paper or on computer. This is the gather, display, and interpret a sample. So before you watch this video, you should have watched already a video on sampling methods where you learn about different methods and procedures when it comes to conducting a true representative sample. Here is what you and your partners are going to do. Number one, you need to start with a question. And that question needs to address what your population is and what your the parameter. That is if you're getting a mean or a proportion. So for an example, students might ask, what is the distribution of car color in the UPrep parking lot? In which case, the population would be all the cars in the parking lot, and then their parameter would be the color of the car, which is a categorical variable. So students, or in your group, if you wanted this one, you would find a way to, number one, randomize or to take a sample that is a representative sample and find colors of car in the UPrep parking lot. You wouldn't do a census, you wouldn't take everybody, but you'd either find a systematic or a SRS or maybe a cluster or stratified sample, and then conduct it, after my approval of course. And then this categorical piece, because it's a car color, it wouldn't be a histogram, it probably wouldn't be a dot plot, it would probably be a bar graph. Another example is, what's the distribution of hours of sleep of university prep upper school students over the intensive? That would be a population of all UPrep students, and you wouldn't take all of them, but you'd find some way to find a sample of them, most likely 20 to 30-ish, and this could be done by email. Maybe you find people randomly in the commons or on their way to school or in some way, and then you find the hours of sleep. You'd probably make a histogram for this one, and you'd find the mean hours of sleep, maybe even a dot plot or a box plot. There's lots of different things to explore. The UPrep faculty, this is a link of all the graduates and colleges they've attended since 2012. You could do books in the library, P-patch plans. When we get to school and we'll be sponsoring a trip to U Village, maybe you want to go on that one when we devote either a morning or most of the afternoon to sampling. You could see the average price of a dinner item on stores in U Village. Lots things like that. This is where your creativity can come in, but the statistical part must be solid. So your question, and that's probably where you're going to end right now, is when you meet your group members, is what your question would be. If you would like to send me what your idea is, I can approve it immediately, and you could get started. Another thing you could do is do an observational study. So you'll see what this is in a few days when we compare it to experiments. An observational study would just be, for example, to see if there's an association between two things. We did this with a two-way table. So say, for example, I hung out at the Safeway and I asked people about their if they took a stats class, yes or no, and then I asked them about their happiness level. Are you happy? So yes, no, or like meh. And then from that information, I could create a two-way table that would have happiness level and then stats class, yes or no. And now I'm just making this up. But I could find, say I had 4 people the people who said no, meh. There were 4 people who took a stats class that said they weren't happy. If they weren't happy, 4 of them took a stats class. If they didn't take a stats class and they weren't happy, there were 96 of them. Let's say that my 50-50 was kind of split. And then of the people who said they were happy, 86 of them were those who took a stats class and 14 were not. So this is a two-way table which could be made into a bar graph that shows the percentage of those who are, if they're not happy, they took what percent took a stats class, or if they were happy. So you could see if there's some difference between taking a stats class and being happy. Again, I'm just making this up. So that's called an observational study. You could do that. And you can't just sit outside and ask the people who you see. That's convenience. At one particular time, you should take several different samples in different places so that it's randomized. Anyway, that's an observational study, and that's an option. So for right now, maybe just get started talking to the people who you are teamed up with, and that should be published as well on Schoology, and outlining your method of gathering a sample. We'll do a lot of practice on recognizing how best to sample stratified, cluster, multi-step, but it's time to start thinking about your project. Way down the line, after you gather your data, you are going to display it, and you should provide at least one presentation quality graph, no pie charts, that has appropriate labels, scaling, and intervals, and then you're going to analyze it. This could be in a video or a poster, but we will see each other before you get to that piece. All right, have fun with this.